Somehow, with my notebook, I put a pin in it. Ha 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 ha. Hey there, and welcome back to your first regular Gabbie Hanna video in I don't know how many months. But before we get into it, it's going to be a little bit weird and I'll explain to you why. So, I filmed this video yesterday. Cool, great, awesome, getting on the ball. And then as I went to edit today, I found that the first 15 minutes of my video file were corrupted. So, cool. Love when things like that happen. But actually, coincidentally, I really did feel very rusty and robotic during those first 15 minutes anyway, so we'll give it a do-over. A couple of other things. This is probably not going to matter to you, but my tchotchkes are going to be a little bit off in the remainder of the video. Again, does that matter to you? Probably not. Does it matter to me? Hell yeah. Whether you want this apology or not, I'm giving it to you. I am sorry for my tchotchkes. The other thing, I am going to be covering a pretty broad array of topics, and even still, I don't cover every single thought, opinion, discussion topic, etc. that I could on this broad topic, which is Gabbie Hanna's behavior and how she's treated her platform since her kind of mental health moment, spiral, whatever you want to call it, her departure from the internet, her return to the internet, the drama that ensued between then and now, as well as the drama that's going on right now. And so this video will be a two-parter. And I do think that it would be prudent for me to try giving it a go with these longer videos to just freaking cut it in half, dude. Otherwise, I am trying desperately to edit 2 hours of footage down into an hour, and it's embarrassingly difficult. I don't even know if that matters. I don't know if it matters to you guys. But let's give this a go for, like I said, these broader topics where I might have more to talk about than just like a little quick, my thoughts on this thing that Trisha said, or whatever, you know? There was so much Gabbie Hanna drama going on that I would have loved to commentate on, but because of my personal involvement at the time, I wanted to make sure that I gave it enough time to where I could step back with a critical and analytical eye that is not overly influenced by anything personal. And I have told you all that I will be doing my best to take my personal feelings in situations like that over to the podcast, if that is something that I want to air out for YouTube. So that's where that resides now. So we're going to talk about Gabbie Hanna. I will say, interestingly and unexpectedly, I have been able to watch her content again very much in the same way that I used to. You know, before this summer, I had certain feelings about Gabbie Hanna, the person, but enjoyed her content for what it is on its own merit. That said, I'm really disappointed by the quality of the content Gabbie's putting out lately, especially when it comes to the podcast. And it's nothing personal against Peyton. I mean, at least in this instance. It's just that Irene and Gabbie really created a dynamic for the podcast that I found very entertaining for a while. I'm interested in the reason for Irene's departure from the podcast, and maybe that's something we talk about. But it's kind of a bummer because I think that had she stayed, I may have been able to return to watching Gabbie Hanna's podcast and enjoying it, but I guess we will never know. So, whether or not you've been watching Gabbie Hanna's content, following Gabbie Hanna on social media, etc., if you exist in any of the same spaces of the internet that I do, on YouTube, on Twitter, or Twitter, then you know more or less what's been going on with Gabbie Hanna over the past few months. Starting with the shadow ban conspiracy or whatever you want to call it back in June until now, which today I believe was the day that the Call Me Crazy video was released. You're welcome, Gabbie, for that free promo. I have not yet listened to it. So again, that may be something else that we talk about later, but that is not something I'm going to be covering in this video. At least the actual song. The circumstances around how that song came to be, we'll touch on. Looking back on the summer and now the beginning of fall and all the drama that's been swirling around Gabbie Hanna for the past few months, I have had, as you can guess, a lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions, a lot of discussions with people. And I found that my opinions, of course, many of them are very much akin to what just about everyone else is saying. There are some things that I think that I don't hear a lot of people say, and so I want to talk about it. Surprise, surprise. And I've told you guys this before, you guys already know this. I am not a reporting channel. That's why I don't really give you a comprehensive breakdown of what happened here in this situation and that situation, unless I'm doing a history of series for the most part. Otherwise, I would just be reporting on cold tea, and who wants that? My mom likes iced tea, actually. Georgia. But to state the obvious, of course, back in June, Gabbie had what I just referred to as kind of a mental health moment. I refer to it as a moment or a mental health moment. She and many people have described it as a mental breakdown. I don't do that, and I'll explain to you why later in the video. But my reason for why I don't is actually, in my opinion, very important to the core of my opinions on this entire situation and everybody affected. Regarding her return video, the first video that Gabbie made when she returned to YouTube and kind of gave a little explanation for what was going on, I could pick that video apart like I've done with some of her other videos, but that's something that I don't know I'd be able to do without my personal feelings getting involved, just considering how many lies and twisted truths there are in there that involve people I know, situations I'm well aware of, and really things that involve me in some way or another. So I won't do that, but there are a couple of things that stuck out to me about that video that rubbed me wrong, or just kind of, as soon as it happened, left a sinking feeling, and that feeling has not gone away. I think my intuition was onto something. So what were those things? First of all, I don't know if this is her exact verbiage. If I can find that, I will provide that to you guys, because as we know, that's very important to Gabbie that we quote her exactly. But I believe she said something along the lines of what we saw in those live streams was more of a one-time outburst.
But what you saw on the outside was a very random and sudden outburst.
She did refer to an outburst, and I think she was also referring to the Enough podcast. So this one-time outburst, I think maybe encompassing everything that happened around that time. I'm not sure, but either way, she gave the impression that this was a one-time outburst, as if it's not going to continue or happen again. If she were just talking about the Enough podcast, then I might be able to buy it as long as she proceeded to better herself, right? Because we all get overly heated at times. We all say things that we wish we hadn't said when we look back on situations. So we've all had a one-time outburst, but the obvious is that this was more than just that. I think the reason she said that was to reassure us, and maybe even herself, that she is doing much better, that she's taking care of herself, and that what we saw in her before is not what we're going to see moving forward.
Anyways, I'm doing a lot better now, and I'm feeling like myself again.
But I think also to reduce it to that, an outburst, right? That vastly understates the gravity of everything that was going on at the time. And let's be real, the fallout that has ensued afterwards. So that was one thing that as soon as she said it, it just, obviously right away I thought, no, that's not the case, but also did not feel confident that things were going to be much better moving forward. Look at that. There's a pin in my notebook. I don't know how it got there. Somehow, with my notebook, I put a pin in it. Ha 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 ha. This is a super quick reminder to like this video and subscribe to my channel if that's something you want to do. If that's not something you want to do, just don't. I'll shut up and start talking now. The other thing that didn't sit well with me, Gabbie explained to us those odd tweets that, again, paraphrasing, I think, but the tweets that said more or less, if something happens to me or one of my loved ones, it wasn't an accident. Then a second tweet that repeated that sentiment. Again, out of fear, I am telling you blah, 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 blah. She explained to us that she had a legitimate reason for feeling this way, that there was a person that was behaving suspiciously outside of her home, right? And that in and of itself, I think, is a valid concern. Do I think that it's possible that Gabbie Hanna was in one of her moments of extreme paranoia? Well, absolutely. Look at what was going on around that time. But I also recognize that just people in general can experience that, and public figures have to worry about creepy people camping outside their houses more so than your everyday person. So her reason for being afraid, I'm not validating or invalidating. It very well could be valid. I'm not here to say that she was lying about that. My concern is that she took to Twitter with some very elusive and worrisome tweets that directly preceded her leaving the internet without an explanation. Tell me it doesn't look to you like she was maybe faking a kidnapping. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And here's the thing. She knows that that's how it's going to be received. And not only that, she had 2 opportunities to see how people would receive that message before she left the internet. She put out those 2 tweets. So she had 2 opportunities to see how her audience would respond to the notion that she could be in danger, right?
Literally, the only way I know how to explain this is it looked like fucking spy equipment.
So there's no amount of men with spy equipment that could convince me that that specific behavior was anything more than a contrived effort to make people worry about her and show their concern and empathy. I will never say something is fact if I don't know that it's fact. But in this case, I am highly, highly convinced. I mean, just for any of us, just imagine telling somebody that you love that you're worried that something's going to happen to you and that it won't be an accident. And then, just like turn off your phone for 6 weeks. We all know how that looks. And so I find that behavior to be massively irresponsible. A very, very irresponsible way to manage your platform. It was awful, in my opinion. It was terrible. And specifically for a group of people that I don't typically stand up for. And I'm going to tell you why I feel for them here. People like me are not the victim in that situation. My friends, drama channels, other people on YouTube, none of us are victims in those situations, but you know who is? Gabbie Hanna's fans. Those people that live and die for her. That, depending on the conversation, when we talk about them, they're kids, other times they're adults. Either way, she's got a following of people who die for her and love her. So to put out a tweet like that, why tweet? Like, first of all, why tweet? If you're worried, go take whatever precaution. If you just cannot resist telling Twitter, then fucking tell Twitter what's going on. If it's to the point that you are worried that something's going to happen to you or a loved one and it won't be an accident, I think that's the point at which you maybe get law enforcement involved. It was irresponsible. I don't usually like to assume people have certain motives unless I have very concrete evidence, proof, what have you. But this was just too weird. This was too weird to be like, oops, sorry, that's not what I meant by that. I didn't mean to worry you guys. No, that's exactly what I think she was trying to do. So that's going to be filed under things that Gabbie Hanna should probably make amends for, but never will. Because there's so much that's happened that we've moved on from that and nobody even cares about that anymore. But I refuse to believe that a YouTuber who will allow her fans to worry about her life in what looks like a mysterious disappearance, that person doesn't care about their fans. And because I love those kids or adults, because I love them as much as I do, I don't think that was fair to them. And I've talked about this for way too long. Some other things that I found to be concerning in just about every video that I've seen since Gabbie's returned, she's promoted her music videos and her upcoming book, her book release, right? Which I take no issue with. I think I said this back in the spring over what I called the non-apology exposed video. I think at the time I said if she wants to plug her music with this video, she gave us content that we wanted to watch. Why can't she plug her music video? Like, I don't begrudge her for plugging her books, plugging her music. That's just part of this business. What I take issue with is how in just about every video I've heard her say something to the effect of, I am obligated to come back and talk about this. I would love to stay off the internet, but Simon & Schuster is bugging me because I'm not plugging my book. I'm not promoting my book.
I don't really want to be back right now, even on this podcast, but like, you can't just like leave work. You know what I mean? I can't just like not do it because there's other people counting on it as well. So we're here.
And I can't imagine going to my job and talking to clients and being like, hey, look, I was on vacation and I really wish that I could have stayed on vacation, but my boss is bugging me because he says I have to come talk to you and provide you our services and, like do my job. Her audience is her market, her customers, her client base. So to tell them that you're only there because your manager or Simon & Schuster or whoever is bugging you to promote your book, that cheapens whatever content you're making and it inauthenticates it, if that's a word. That sort of behavior really just communicates to your audience that you don't want to be there for them, that they are an obligation, that you'd rather be doing something else. And this is the whole reason that people started becoming kind of disenchanted with her content in the first place, because sometime around a year or two ago, she started saying things like, I don't want to do YouTube. So we keep getting this message of, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And we can get into a whole discussion about how that may have affected the numbers that she was looking at around the time that this whole thing started, the views, the conspiracy with YouTube. I mean, many people have already made that video where they talked about the audience's declining interest in Gabbie's content because of the lack of passion for that content. So I don't care to break that down, but it is worth noting that she's doing this all over again with how she talks about promoting her book. It's not, hey guys, I'm excited to bring you this video today, but I'm also excited to tell you about my book. It's like, hey guys, I had to make this video for you because someone is telling me that I have to push this book. Doesn't really make me want the video or the book. Not that you'd expect me to want either of those things, but if I could remove myself from myself, that would be the net effect. And so on the topic of kind of the return to making content and business and pushing products, we did see that Gabbie released a video in which she watched mean TikToks centered around the memes that came out over the summer, making fun of Gabbie Hanna. This time she became a much bigger meme than the monster meme I think ever was. And she sat down with her friends to watch these memes and at the same time push this new merch. And I have heard some people complain about her capitalizing on this sort of stuff and kind of how that's like a cash grab, she's money hungry, etc. I said this about the monster meme and the merch she made around that. Make that merch, girl. Like, do it. Make it cute, make it something people want to wear. But I don't see any problem with you creating something around this thing, whether that thing was good or bad, but either way was personal to you, and now pushing that out and making that part of your business. I don't have a problem with that. That part was everything about merch for the most part is very transparent. This is a product that you can buy. That's the message, right? I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with the fact that in that video, you told us that you were going to watch these videos that your patrons compiled, by the way. I saw those videos. They were not mean. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, I don't want to watch the mean ones. I don't want to watch the mean videos. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't pretend that you're going to sit down and watch the mean videos, but then have your adoring fans be the ones that present these things to you. It's disingenuous. But then also, how is it that this merch was already created? You had, I think, 3 different t-shirts, at least, that you and your friends were wearing in that video, yet you hadn't seen the memes. No. We've dealt with situations like this before with Gabbie Hanna, and this one is a bold-faced lie. She had to have been aware that those things were being said in order to create these designs and send them out to be produced. Lies, just lies and contradiction. And that's an issue that I've seen really across Gabbie Hanna's entire career online, but especially over the summer. It's contradiction after contradiction after contradiction. So there's one, the fact that she has merch out based on a meme that she's never seen. That doesn't make sense. I think she might have even pushed the merch via TikToks. She made a couple of TikTok videos. There was one that she was doing, I think, the dance that some TikToker made up for her Enough podcast rant. I thought that TikTok was actually cute. I thought her dancing to it, it was a cute video. The problem is that Gabbie Hanna is purporting to not be sensitive to these jokes, pretending that she is bulletproof. That was the song that she used in one of her TikToks. She's bulletproof, and she sent out a message following a compilation of memes with the message that you think you can hurt my feelings? Come on, I'm Gabbie Hanna. Yeah, you're Gabbie Hanna. You are the person whose feelings are most easily hurt. And that's not me trying to be mean. That is just fact and observation. But then in, I think the same week, I heard her say on her podcast, talking to Peyton, that what she's going through right now sucks. That she is constantly experiencing public humiliation.
It's embarrassing to not be doing well because people are watching. Just the constant being judged and being made fun of. And I don't think people understand how hard it is to be so embarrassed all the fucking time. Like, my life for the last couple years feels like just perpetual public humiliation and public shame.
And that is the Gabbie Hanna that I have a shred of respect for. I have more respect for her when she tells us honestly how these things make her feel. I think I've said that before, but those two things can't exist in conjunction. You can't be constantly humiliated and a victim. I mean, at this point, I'm not even accusing Gabbie Hanna of playing victim. She has said she is the fucking victim.
Fuck you. All of these people for what they've done to me. And for them to be tweeting right now, I'm playing the victim. I am the fucking victim.
So you can't be the victim who feels constantly abused and humiliated, mocked, and that hurting and that not feeling good and that causing a lot of mess around you. That can't exist and also you being that bitch that doesn't care, right? I don't necessarily have more respect for somebody when nothing can get to them. I don't. However, Gabbie Hanna has proved to us time and time again that she has the most fragile ego of just about anyone on the platform, if not the most fragile. You can't have the most fragile ego on YouTube and also say that you're bulletproof and your feelings can't be hurt. Those two things directly contradict each other. And the problem with all this contradiction is that it makes you look like a liar. Especially when you overtly state one thing here and overtly state the opposite here. I don't have a problem with the fact that somebody's trying to cope with something painful like that. My problem is that you are lying. Every time you do something that looks, sounds, smells like a lie, it chips away at your credibility. And I don't know that Gabbie Hanna has any of that left. So that's it for this episode. I should have the other half of this video up for you guys in the next couple of days, so long as everything goes as planned, which happens 15% of the time-ish? I'm going to hope for the best. So let me know what you think about this format so far, and of course, your opinions. I'm always down for having this discussion. It's a very complicated and twisted situation, and I think I said this in what I recorded yesterday, but I'm so bad. I said this on the podcast too, at just drawing out my outros. I ramble so much because I don't know how to do it. So with that, I'm just going to say, hey, I'll see you, or rather, you'll see me in a couple of days. Bye.